Hi, everybody. This is Fancy Pants. Hope you're having a great day. We're in the Game Ant Legion, and I wanted to start out by giving a shout out to Rusty Wrench, who is a viewer and was kind enough to leave me a nice message about enjoying my videos. So I wanted to say thank you because that really meant a lot. And they also gave me an idea for a video. So that's what we're going to be doing is talking about the different ant troop types and why we choose to focus on one and how to choose one and the differences between them. So when you first get into your nest, you have four different ant types. The mover are basically only good for that. In the beginning, you're going to be using them in battle, but only because you don't have enough range or haste or melee. And if I said melee wrong, please say it right in your head because I don't know exactly how to say it. But um, so until you get enough soldiers trained to fill up your battlegrounds, you're going to be using movers. But after that, you will not. Um, so let's just talk about these three. These are going to be the three that you're going to choose from. Now, when we go down, we're going to go down into specialized ant here. And when you first are starting, you're going to have your blues and then your purples, and then we'll get into your golds and your reds. Um, now, I guess your first question is, well, first, I guess, would be um, when do you do this? When you do it is for sure by the time you open up your evolution cave. Um, and I'll show you that real quick. But first, I want to also um, say that the reason why we do it is because if you just focus on every troop type, the resources that it takes to do that goes into each one are that you need so many that for one you would have to pour tons of money into the game. I mean tons, and it would probably take forever as well. So if you spread it out that much, you're going to be a mediocre player, and everybody that focuses on an ant type are going to blow you out of the water when it comes to battles or events, um, because they're going to be just focusing all their resources on one troop type, and we're going to and that'll give them a much higher attributes for that type, and it'll give them a stronger CP, and you will lose every battle. And we don't want to start out behind. The getting behind will not get you ahead. So if that makes sense. So we want to be ahead of the game. So you're going to want to choose one type. And again, for sure, when you start getting into the evolution with gear and cells and totems and all that stuff, um, because that's when you're going to start getting you need certain things to add to those ant types, um, and they are not easy to come by. So you just want to focus on the one. Now, I can't really say what queen you'll be at when this is going to happen, uh, but once you start, you will just get a feel for it, I suppose. Like you'll start getting more than one troop. Now that kind of happens with whatever the game gives you. I particularly went with haste because I was given those ants more, and those were the ones that got upgraded the quickest just by the luck of the game. So rather than starting with one that I would have to work more at getting ahead, at that time, that was the one that was highest. So that's why I went with it. Now, does one troop have advantage over the other? Not individually. Um, each has their own attributes that will make it better than the other. And we're going to get into that um, in a minute. But for all intensive purposes, it does not matter which one you choose to start. Okay, so like I said, I chose haste. Now that I'm into the reds, you will see like the top 5 are going to be your strongest ants. By default, they'll come up here. Uh, you will see that mine, you'll be like, oh, I thought you said yours were haste, but I see that they're not all haste. When you come up here, these little diamond shaped things, these icons will show a symbol in them. This one here, so at a glance, you can tell this is arranged, is a backwards like arrow thing. The Malay will be the next one here. That has a shield kind of emblem, and then the haste will have a boot. So you'll see my last 2 here, or last 3, they all are haste. Um, it is when you get into looking at the ants that you'll see the difference. Okay, the reason like I have a range here is if there was a specialized ant event, this would go into that range category. The next one would go into the Malay category, and the my boot one would go into the one I actually am strong in, and that's the haste. But the reason I have them as my strongest is if you look at them, you'll see this one at 3 stars gives me 80% range soldier attack, but it also gives me an 80% haste. So that is my reason for having it. And being it does do both, it's a really good advantage. Okay, and then the Malay is the same. It has 80% Malay attack, but it also has haste. So that's the reason that I have them. And then down here you'll see also like the jumper, and that one is a range. But if you look at it, it gives you army hit points. Um, if there was again a specialized event where it only uses a certain type, then it would go into that particular range category. But being um, just for normal, battles, it's going to give your army defense and hit points and attack percentages. So that is why I have it as a general ant, right? So you would include it into whichever group that you did choose. So again, if it was only range, I would not be using it. Okay. So now, how do we put these to use? Well, here's the best way to do it is to go into the arena. But I do want to mention too that being this is my chosen troop type is haste. Haste are the only thing I send into battle now because I have enough trained to just to cover my army capacity. So that's all in fact I have more haste than I can fit in my army capacity, and that is why it's so important to get your army capacity as high as it can be, because that is what determines how many ants you can send into battle. And of course, the more you have, the better it is, right? So, so if you look back into my haste nest here, you'll see that I have 403,119 soldiers, but when you of just haste soldiers. But when you go into like actual like arena challenges, not all of them are going to be able to be used because my army capacity is at a limit. It takes a lot to get it higher. So anytime you can make it higher, do it. Okay, that is a little tip for you. So I'm going to go in the arena to show you the differences of the troops. Um, Now, I've already been in here before, so I only have 3 attempts left. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I don't want to make it super long. But when I come into this, I'm going to do another video just on the arenas. But what you want to do to be able to show you the differences is I'm going to come into this record here now. In this first arena challenge, I get used to the names because it's going to group you with pretty much the same ones over and over again. So I kind of know who I can beat right now, unless I've done major upgrades or they have, um, which I will get into in another video. But for now, let's just show you my haste setup. Okay, so these are my ants that I run with in the battle. As you can tell, I have mostly haste. This is the ones I showed you, the range and the melee that are also have haste attributes. And then down here, remember I showed you how many troops I have, but this is only how many I can use. Um, so you just want to make sure those are up there, and that it's already the way I want it. So I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to go back out here and challenge. And this is where I'm going to be able to show you the difference. Okay, profit roll. I know I can win, but I'm going to show you why. Break it down for you. Okay, the first thing you're going to look at is their army when you go in here. And again, I'll get into this part of it in more depth in another video. It's so easy to go off on something else when you're doing these, because there's so many, like, one branches into another, and before you know it, you're talking about a forest instead of a leaf. You know what I mean? So anyway, but I just wanted to decipher to show you the difference. Okay, so there's the army size that you'll look at, and then you're going to look at here. Stars are the most important, more important than the level. But so you look at the stars. Um, Again, if you're not higher up in the game yet, this probably is not going to make sense to you. If you are, and even if you are a lower nest, just remember that if you have like more stars on a blue, it may be a stronger ant troop than say a purple uh, with one star. Okay, so stars really matter. You just need to look at the statistics of them, I'm not sure if I have done a video on that yet, but I'm going to do one anyway coming up here. So if I haven't, be looking for that in the future to be able to know the difference in which ants are the strongest for you. Okay, but so I'm looking at this and kind of, I know my ants in my head, so I'm looking at theirs and seeing if theirs are any better. So to see which advantages I have over them, and I don't. Okay, so we'll look at the stars, and we're going to look at their level of their troop here. They have 365 and 350s, which I believe are pretty similar to mine. So far we're really close. Okay, now next we're going to look at their troop type. When we look on here, the opponent and ally, opponent is them, ally is me. Now we see that they're only sending melee soldiers because there's a dash here. They're not sending a haste like I am. And we both have tier 10s. These are these numbers here. Tier 10 ants, troops. That doesn't matter so much. I've had T9s beat me. It don't matter right now. It opens up new things to work on within your training nest, but so far I haven't, upgraded them enough to have this make a difference. So T9s could beat me, but they are a T10, so right now we're equal with that too. Um, and I'm not sending any melee, so there's a dash there. So I'm only sending haste, they're only sending melee. Now, one of the most important things is who has advantage over who. Now, like I told you before, each individual group is not better than the other, so to speak, okay? They all have their own individual advantage. Okay, so melee, they're the strongest. But that doesn't mean they're strong against everybody. Okay? Only they're just that they're strong. But melee, it has advantage over range. So that makes range weaker to it. Okay, so melee is advantage over range. Range has advantage over haste. Rangers stand back. Okay, so they can get back away from the battle. That's why they're usually archers, things like that. Okay, so range has advantage over haste. Haste has advantage over melee. So these are kind of in order when you go into these arenas. So it's melee over range, range over haste, and haste over melee. Now, if I was going to, when you choose the battle in here, I would not choose a range to battle against unless they were really, really low. I would always pick a melee that I think I can beat, or a range. I mean, I'm sorry, a haste um, that I think I could beat. Okay, so I would rarely ever pick a range unless they were super low. Um, Now, how does this matter? How it matters is your numbers. Now, when you're looking in here, now I know I have advantage over melee. So that means, as far as them beating me, they would have to have a really high attack. Um, and now, what you do first is I would take out range altogether. I don't need to worry about that because neither of us are a ranged, a ranged troop focus. So I only have to look at their melee. Now, when I first come in here, before I knew anything about this, I'd be afraid because I'd see all this red. But just remember, all you have to check is your haste, whatever you're sending. My haste attack is 1862. Their melee attack is 1641. So I already know I can beat them with attack. Um, Now, the way that the advantages work is, even if this one had, I know, just from doing it, I know that I can beat, unless some other aspect comes into it, I can beat like a 2041, say, um, with my number being what it is. So even if it was, I'm sorry, I talk with my hands, so I just hit the screen. Even if my attack was lower than theirs, I would still beat them if theirs was like a 20. If it gets above that, it gets iffy. But that just shows you how much advantage that a haste would have over a melee. And it works the same with the range. Now, it works just the opposite if this range had these same numbers. Even if a range had a 1641, it would beat me, even with my number being higher. It's that little bit of, which is not a little, it's a lot of an advantage, depending on, which troop you picked to be your special troop. Um, Now, in the same breath, if I was up against a haste, then this would matter, and then we would be equal. It'd be an equal playing field, and there would be no advantages. Okay. So in this case, like, I already have a good idea that I can beat them, even though their army attack is a little bit more. Um, I haven't really noticed them coming into play too much. Again, it all depends on the numbers that are down here as to how much that would affect these. So that's that, and then it then would get into the bonuses and things like that. But I don't want to get into that so much because this is a part of this particular arena event thing. So more than it is the groups, but I just wanted to show you why groups matter. Because once you get to this part, more depends on who you're up against and who you can beat and who you can't beat. Now, further down in the game, which I haven't gotten to yet, like, I'm a level 30 queen, but I'm just starting to be able to add a secondary group onto mine. As you can see, neither of these range or melee are very big on my side here because I have put so far almost everything into my haste, which gives me better advantage over other haste players. And then in the future, when because I don't spend a lot of money on the game, some people go crazy with it. So they might already have a secondary group where they're strong and well, like even this one, um, they're probably a melee with a second in range, which neither help them in my case. But if my haste was less than it is, if it wasn't 1862 and it was even probably 14, then even though their melee couldn't beat me, their haste could, or their range could. So that is why it helps when you can have a secondary. But if you split all these into the same, being the same, you wouldn't beat anybody. You see what I'm saying? Like if we took off this, well, off of mine, if you took off of the 18 and you put it evenly across here, I wouldn't be able to beat them at all. So I hope that kind of explains why it helps to be able, to be better at these battles and to be able to beat, somebody. It just otherwise you would not be able to beat any battle probably, unless they do the same thing that you do and don't specialize in one group or not. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit challenge so we can get this over with here. And you can hit this little arrow at the end, make it go quicker. And you can see that I did. Now, if that was too fast or anything and you need to go back and relook at the numbers and see how the advantages work, um, go ahead and pause it and do that. And if you have any questions, um, that I know when I'm doing these videos it might go a little fast, because I don't know how much you know and how much you don't. So if you need something explained better, please just let me know in the comments or so, and I'll do my best to make it as simple as possible, to explain it better. Okay, well, thank you for listening, and I appreciate you watching. And I hope that helped somewhat. You have a great day. Have fun. Bye bye.